Hi everybody, sorry for the bad light here, but it's pretty dark, so I had to manipulate my camera to get some kind of light, and it's all a bit yellowish, I know. I'm here in the beautiful city of Recklinghausen, and 2 weeks ago the conductor of the orchestra asked me if I could add to the Rococo Variations also Tchaikovsky's Pezzo Capriccioso. And as you know, I have quite a lot on my plate these days with Dudoslavsky and Dean Concerto and Bach Suites and Brahms Double, so I was hesitant to do it, but then I thought maybe it's a good chance to play this piece with orchestra and play it a bit different to what we are all used to hearing, which is the version by Rostropovich, I guess, which is rather large and heavy. And I worked it now with the conductor yesterday, and the piece gets, I think, more fun and a bit fresher and just less long. I don't know if you know the piece, but it has a lot of repeats in it, and if it's too slowly and too self-indulgent played, I think, well, at least I don't like it so much. So I decided to make a little play talk about this, and hopefully I'll be able to record the dress rehearsal tomorrow, which doesn't happen in the hall, but in the rehearsal hall of the orchestra, which is unfortunate because there's a wall right in front of me. But I see what I can do with the sound, because if the microphone is too close to the cello, as we all know, it will sound rather direct and dry and ugly. Because I have to play the way I would play for the hall, which is rather, I wouldn't call it aggressive, but with as much overtones as possible, especially in the quick passages on the lower strings. It's always a compromise between the beauty of sound and merely being heard. Because if we play it too elegantly, there won't be anything left to hear in the bigger hall. For those who know the piece, they know there's a virtuosic middle part and end section as well. And Tchaikovsky wants us to play it in the same speed as the slow part before, which means if we want any kind of tempo relation, the slow part cannot be too slow. So if we want the quick part, anything like that would be this would be quarter notes. The beginning would go like this. And the subject would go like this. And then we would have exactly the same tempo. And for me, honestly, I prefer it in that flowing mode. So I will now attempt this play talk by trying to get the tempo relation in that way. And we're going to try that tomorrow with the orchestra as well. And you can judge if you like it better the old-fashioned way or this. It's not my way, I think it's Tchaikovsky's way. I'm suggesting also to not start fortissimo. Tchaikovsky writes fortissimo for the beginning, but we have these 3 levels, and I think it would be nice if we could grow each time. So I also asked the orchestra to start rather mezzo forte and have the cello line which goes, they lead that into me. And this line could have a crescendo each time. So they start mezzo forte, forte, fortissimo. And I try to do something similar with my beginning. interlude. And before I come in, Tchaikovsky writes ritenuto. And I asked yesterday the conductor not to do a real ritardando. They have syncopations. Something like that. He called it kind of running low in energy, which I liked. It shouldn't really be a retard, but rather wondering what's happening. As you can see, I'm trying to avoid playing the same rubato each time. We have this. It comes 3 times already in this first section. And my strategy for that, to make it a bit more interesting, is to maybe stretch each time a bit more. So the first time I do hardly anything, and for those who haven't seen the music, Tchaikovsky doesn't write anything. But even if he did, I need to make it so that it's as interesting and diverse as possible. And if we each time play it gets old. So I suggest to maybe start big and get smaller, or start small and get bigger with the rubato, as you like. And by playing it in this bit more fluent tempo than our beloved Rostropovich, it gives us more chances to actually play rubato. Because if I play for 10 bars, but the whole piece consists of nothing else but this, and then later the quick part. So, and as an andante, I don't think we need to milk it all the time. And by having it more fluent, then if we take time, I think it's more special. So, like at the end of the first section, to really have this change of harmony, enjoy it, and let it breathe a bit more. But if we're already at a very slow tempo, it's hard to get even slower. Very difficult and, or not very difficult, but balance-wise are these runs onto the C string. This. We need to think quite a big crescendo, and we have to ask the piano or the orchestra, whoever is our partner in crime, not to do any crescendo, as we won't have a big chance to get louder there. In this, that's the biggest I can get. And I hope you will see in the dress rehearsal, if I manage to tape it, that it's hardly audible. Here the microphone picks up a crescendo, I guess, but in the hall it just sounds like and that's why I'm exaggerating as much as I can. Also, this has to be played better. 1, 2, da, di, da, da. There's a fermata on the downbeat, which is slurred over. So we play 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. To always play not each time the stretch on the first note, but could be anything. Could be stretching the first one. That's the interesting thing about rubato. We steal something from there and we give it back there. While the pulse, my favorite subject, is kind of continuing. Rubato well done should be rather easy to accompany, as the accompaniment doesn't have to wait so much with these little things, but we also have to make sure that we don't fall into some kind of stereotype. Well, if you do the long stretch, have enough bow for the last note. Whenever we do ta-dam, that is never. Then really ta-da-dam pam pa. And here still in the string, not too wishy-washy, especially if you play it with orchestra. Now to the middle section. I try to end on an up bow. I ask the conductor to give the 1. So let's take that apart. I practiced already too much today. This whole section has to be played quite in the string. Here you could get shorter, but if you practice it in the string, and I just found this new fingering, which I never did, but I use my fourth finger for the next passage. Practice slowly, as legato as possible. And not softer than that. I know it says pianissimo or something, but forget it. If you play kind of... this kind of overtones. So this whole passage gets larger and larger if you want any kind of crescendo. And I promise, in the hall it probably doesn't even sound like a crescendo. You can also always think a big diminuendo. On the A string we can play with as little weight as we want. Here. That has to be quite well pronounced. And it's so difficult to hear. I don't know how other people play, but I think I always used to finger it, and now I'm staying in the thumb position, or I switch back to the thumb position, which I think is a bit easier. Then that's a tough jump. And then my fingers are too fat for that, so I'm compromising, and I just pray that in speed it doesn't sound as out of tune as slowly. Sorry. I think fingering wise that's the safe thing, I just have to practice it more. You can see how I use the fourth finger. I don't know if, and I always use the third finger, and that tired my hand so much because I had to go into the stretch. Also for this passage before. You see how my hand is quite close together, and if I would play it with a third finger, everything... The hand is in a constant stretch and gets super tired. I hope I will manage, because I haven't played the piece very much, but I learned it as a child when I was 15, and I always did this 1, 2, 3 fingering. And with the fourth, it's not in my brain and in my body yet. I have to give myself constantly orders, like fourth finger. So when he switches from G sharp to G natural, we can take a tiny bit of time. But this is so hard. So you can take a tiny bit of time, but I would recommend not too much, otherwise it's difficult to get going again. don't know if I told you already, but the trick of doing these chromatic glissandos is to try to hear the augmented arpeggio chords. So not easy, but you get used to it because it's the easiest. It should be the easiest thing just to gliss down, but as you know, the distances are getting bigger. So sometimes if one glisses too fast, we cannot gliss at the same tempo. So it's about. I mean, we just have to get there in time, but it helps to try to hear the bam 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 bam. That's obviously the biggest one with these augmentation there. And it's quite tricky. I don't know why, but I didn't talk about one major problem, which is the accompaniment being late. Always this brum brum brum. Especially when we play, they're going, and notes like that they tend to drag. With an orchestra even more because they have a bow and they play instead of. The pianist should have less problems, but I promise you most pianists will be behind. Because it's so much information in such short time. And it is quite quick, but it's 30 seconds notes. What do you expect from 30-second notes? They should be quick. I go again from... Oh no, there's a difference. Why do I say 1, 2, da, di, da? Because this is never together. And it's actually quite simple, but whenever I played it, I wasn't aware of where I was, and the conductor was not aware where I was either. So if I at least know where the 1 is, then I can tell the conductor where the 1 is, and then he can bring in the orchestra on 2. It's always a waiting game there, and it sounds so bad if the F sharp is being played out of control. And it's not many bars, like pam 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 da. And how much can you say with an F sharp? It's the end of this. And at least in my score, I looked at the facsimile, he doesn't slur it in for the second time. You might think, oh, he was sloppy, he forgot. But maybe he wasn't sloppy, maybe he wanted it different the second time around. So I'm playing it different. Also, you might have been able to tell I play it a bit freer the stuff before, this whole... A bit calmer, or a bit softer, or a bit freer, something. As we have heard it already before, now we could be more imaginative. Maybe not the first time around. Let's give the audience a chance to understand what the piece is about, and then after all the craziness, we could be suddenly a bit more relaxed if we want. Or the other way around. But definitely not each time super slow, please. Oh, and here now, when I played it now, I took a bit more time. But you could also go straight. That could be nice, or a bit more thoughtful. And make sure that the last one is the loudest, not like the whole thing. No. Tam pam pam tan ta. The fermata should be the climax, not before. So not too much big bowing before. C major, so no reason to spread that out for too long. Decisive, I guess. And this time around, we don't have the upbeat, so no. But the orchestra has the downbeat and we have slurred in, so we just follow the lead of the conductor. In this case, this is much easier with an orchestra because the conductor does the little and you play. With the pianist, you have to give the downbeat, I guess. I don't know how I would do it. Because we have to start immediately. I haven't played it with piano in 40 years, I guess. I played it as a teenager horribly. I have a recording, I will post it at some point. It's really horrible. So I don't know how to cue the piano there. It should be as inaudible as possible. And there you see, I play a harmonic for once, because somehow I always used to play it pushed down and it was always hysterical, like a siren going off. And well, the danger is that you miss the harmonic, but if you don't, I think the harmonic in this case is a good choice. This is quite tricky, so I again changed my fingering and I use the fourth finger now more. That's the hardest. I do 4, 3, 2. 4, 2, 3. 4, 3, 3. 4, 3, 2. Sounds like super difficult, but actually in speed, because the hand stays in the same position, and in speed you cannot distinguish so well anyway. I do it slowly one more time. It's not in tune, I know, but in speed, I play it in speed now. Not super clear, but better than I've ever played it, I promise. I always get so tired there if I'm... Also, my cello is quite big, so maybe for me it's necessary, and for people with smaller measurements, cello it's easier, but... Here I switch to the first finger. Then I do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. I don't switch anymore. 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then I switch at the very end. And try to, because in speed it's difficult to hear the little accents. One last try. And you see quite a lot of bow for the speed, so don't try to jump, it just you need sound there. And I switch on the high F sharp from 3 to 1 to be able to have it easier to hit the harmonic. You see, I have not so much experience with that piece. I played it probably 5-6 times with orchestra in my life. Last time a couple of years ago. So this is now quite a challenge, as I had very little time to practice. But thanks to the idea of playing it more thumb position and using the fourth finger as well, which kudos to Scott Lytle, my patron in Seattle, who is actually a jazz pianist, and he plays the cello quite well, and he came up with all these great fingerings doing his riffs on the piano. He wants on the cello. He wants to improvise on the cello, and he came up with exercises and using all fingers, which is really a brilliant idea. And I ask anybody of you, try it. Try with the fourth finger. Also with the Saint-Saëns cello concerto. Okay, there I don't use the fourth finger so much, but the thumb quite early. And for this transition, I think I always played this and I got lost. Thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you soon und tschüss.